Hi, everybody. Welcome to Happiness Rules. I'm here with Karen Carey, and I'm incredibly excited to have you as a guest. I've heard your name for a long time, finally got to meet you, and now you're on the podcast. No, absolutely. So, Karen, go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience.
Yay, thank you for having me. Yeah, so I am an intuitive life coach. I've been coaching for 17 years and I am a speaker, an author. I have done team building, customer service, training, those kind of things, still doing some.
And
And yeah, so I
tell
have
me
this
about your
wide
path to
variety of
becoming
things
an
that I love to
intuitive
do.
life coach. Like, take me back to that process, from growing up and suddenly ending up where you are today.
Right? How long have you got? No. Well, I had a extremely complicated childhood. Started out with severe trauma when I was 3 years old. It was 1958, so that was different times, different ways of handling things. And then I sort of had this life full of, and I think my family changed at that point in time. I had this life full of violence and responsibility and taking charge and eventually process after process after process after process. I studied everything under the sun. The first thing that got me going was I had a salon in town here and we were part of a pilot program for an organization out of Europe and they were all about customer service and team building for salons and spas. And so I got picked to be one of the people that they trained over in Europe and then to bring it back. They didn't last long here for various reasons which I don't need to talk about, but it sort of showed me a new like world. Wow. Okay, this is really interesting. There are different ways to do things because I had been kind of searching for that. So then after that, I became a transpersonal counselor, a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, a reflexologist, a fitness instructor, everything under the sun because I was really searching for my own healing. That to me meant really searching because why not? I knew I needed to change. I just didn't know how to do it. And I really wanted to. And when I found coaching, I kind of thought to myself, this is what I have been looking for. I love that it puts together for me the magical, the self-development, the personal development, all that, and the practical.
And
I
at
like that
some
combination
point you
a lot.
moved into this intuitive approach. Tell me about that.
So that came with the transpersonal counseling program. I mean, to be fair, when I was 3 years old, I used to take walks with Jesus holding his hand. I grew up in a very religious household. And I don't know, I guess I just resonated with Jesus. He sounded pretty cool and nice. I think it really started then. But then uh, in the transpersonal counseling program, it's a lot about spirituality, connecting with the universe, with spirit, with the ascended masters, with. So what happens for me, and I finally just added that on there over the last few months because I felt it was more honest. And sometimes I just see things. Or I'll say, I'm seeing this picture right now. What does that mean anything to you? It's usually a crazy picture that means nothing to me. And then they say, yes, I actually did make food for all of my animals. I was the cook for the whole household and I made all the 12 years old, that kind of stuff. I just use it. I'm not a medium like in general or anything like that. People do show up now and again. I will say that out loud. Saturday at the Mind Body Soul Expo, I was talking to someone who was really a severe trauma with her 30-year-old daughter and she passed and I could feel her energy from the other side and we talked about it a little bit and she was so happy. The daughter was really happy. And the mother was sad, obviously, but of course, how could she not be? But anyway, it was just a little connection, sometimes
100%.
just out of
Ken, and
nowhere.
you know what
Does that make sense how I said it?
impressive is kind of leaning
Okay.
into who you are, right? and having the courage to just kind of put it under your coaching, right? Intuitive coaching. It takes courage to do that.
Thank you. Yes, it did. I don't know why, actually. I mean, it would always come anyway in my sessions with
Yep.
my
And the thing with
clients,
courage,
but
that I learned
it did take
from
some courage for me for some
a business
reason.
coach, Dan Sullivan, he says, courage never feels good.
Exactly. Yes, yes, I would agree with that.
Right, right.
It's the discomfort zone that makes the difference, not the comfort zone.
So, what kind of clients are you working with these days?
It just depends. I often work with individuals that have like their own business, like solopreneurs or people who are trying to find their way, people who feel stuck. I've worked with nonprofit, the directors, the CEOs. There's often a lot to handle in those positions. And also, there's a lot of heart and soul that goes into that. So it can often be a bit more complicated.
Yeah, so
So I
there's
work with
a
those
ton of
kind of people.
responsibility
And yeah,
and uncharted waters, right? They're kind of blazing their own trail. There's not a path that they're following, and as a leader, you're the one that's carrying all the responsibilities, right? For yourself, for the company, for your family, for profits, employees, customers. It's a lot that owners, CEOs, solopreneurs are carrying.
100%. Because I owned my salon, right? I know enough about that. I mean, I actually lost my business because my partner closed it without telling me. But that's okay because I learned so much from that because I was all about the customer service and the team and that she was taking care of the money. I She made a couple of hints, but I didn't really catch them, because I was so focused on my side. So there's a lot to be learned from the things that we fail at,
And in the course of working with the people you work with,
right?
does the word burnout come up? Do the people talk about that? What's your experience with these individuals?
They don't bring it up, but I do. There's this whole thing about, I have a perception about burnout, which is people don't know how to say no. I've worked with people who have been on 6 or 7 boards on top of running their own company or being the top person. It's not possible with a family and 4 children or 2 children or one. It doesn't even matter. But I mean, that's a recipe for burnout for sure.
So so
Not
so
knowing
certainly
how to
getting
say
split
no.
out that then there's almost always family of origin issues that are coming up with that, right? Well, we
100%.
see it with ourselves, we see it with
Not
our,
that I know anything about
patients
that.
and clients that, like, putting that gas mask on yourself only as a last resort.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Don't you feel like I grew up as the middle child? And there's some middle child stuff, right? But not every middle child has full responsibility of everything, right? But there's a lot of times that it does happen. But my older sister was sick. My mom was in the hospital a lot. My older brother was a wild man. My younger brother and sister were way younger than me. My father was an alcoholic. And that kind of left me in charge of a lot of things. And I honestly didn't know much how to do it very different. I tend to be in charge a little too much. I had a reading one time, this person out in Arizona, and she says, "Oh, your guides are really funny." She said, "They're saying you need to practice the new F word." And I was like, "The new F word? What's that?" Fun. A couple years later, I go to this other thing and I sit down and, it's the Mind Body Soul Expo here. And it was a little quiet. So I go over and sit at her table and she's like, this is the first words out of her mouth. All work and no play make Karen a dull girl. So, I've had my own issues with it. And honestly, writing this, it really was the cap of burnout. I'm really sorting out how to turn off now, how to not have to watch a movie or some stupid thing on TV to feel like I can get centered or constantly have my brain thinking about the next thing and learn how to take a walk again. I mean, I was still doing all that, but not being very present. My word for this year is presence. I can always be present with my clients. That's super easy for me. But then there's
Yeah,
everything
so tell
else,
me
right?
about your book. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had it right here, didn't I? So it's Unbroken, turning your pieces into peace and joy. And is like our journey that we take from our experiences, as you know. And how do we put those pieces into a meaningful life with purpose and learn how to accept our life, love our life, and fall in love with ourselves.
And
It's like
what
that.
was the process of writing it like for you?
So I got the idea. Well, I've always thought about it, but actually a clear idea about it probably about 5 years, right before COVID started. So I started it then. I kept hearing like things to write, and I have to do things sort of my way instead of the way it's supposed to be done. And I know that I've learned a bit that about myself over the years. Like, don't try and follow the square box because you don't fit in it. You have to be in the round one with all the loops that go out. It just took me a long time. When COVID hit, I felt it really wrecked my nervous system because part of my original experience had been being in the trunk of a car and at 3 years old. And I think that feeling of being trapped like that kind of all really exploded upwards in a way it never had before because of feeling trapped. So, and then I would work on it a little bit here and there. And then I finally pulled it together for real. I started about 2 years ago. And then the last year, I really was like, get over yourself. You're writing this book. There's no way you're not finishing it. My inner children were giving me migraines and yelling at me. And I was like, hey, let's just do this together. We don't have to be sick because I'm going to do it anyway. So it's a very vulnerable book. I always feel like I would say to my clients, it's about being vulnerable and exposed to ourselves and then maybe to other people. And when we do that, then we can live life from a different
Yeah,
place.
so that exposure and kind of honesty, right? Putting the the parts of ourselves out into
Yeah.
the open in the presence of somebody else who can then accept that, right? And not be stunned or ashamed or run away. But it's hard to do that for yourself, writing a book, right?
It certainly is. It certainly is. Yes, definitely. Definitely. But I'm determined. Like, I'm not going to say this book isn't like making my nervous system a little riled up, but that's okay. I don't care. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if I don't get uncomfortable, then how am I ever going to move forward?
So your
You know,
work requires you to kind of put yourself out there and spend a lot of, kind of energy being present for other folks. How do you fill your cup back up? Right? How do you replenish and recover?
for me, doing body scans, the meditation body scans is how I stay sane. I have a friend she went through the transpersonal counseling class as well. She does classes and, once again, it's profound meditations. I walk, I do yoga. Occasionally, if I need one, I get a therapist. My son went through a really hard thing a couple of years ago, and I did get a therapist through that. I have coaches here and there. They have to be the right coaches, you know. I do what I can to support myself and make sure that I eat incredibly clean because I don't know if you experience this with other people, but I have a very, very, very sensitive body. Like I gave up white sugar like 30 plus years ago, 35 years ago. I gave up gluten like before when it first came out as something. Um, I have to take very, very, very good care of myself in order for my body and my nervous system to stay healthy. And I do like to go to the state park here.
And then are there people that you're regularly connecting with? I mean, your friends.
I have a very good friends. Honestly, my best counselor is Kevin, my lovely husband. I'll say, "There's just something I need to talk through. Could you just listen?" And he listens, and sometimes he's like, "Karen, it's like 8 o'clock now. You might wanna stop for the night." Or if he knows I've been working a little too much, he'll say, "Hey, I think you might want to take a day off." So fortunately, I have him to give me the nudges that I need as well. And I have really good friends, and my children are amazing. And yeah,
Good. So it's so
I'm pretty
important
lucky
that we
in that way.
stay connected, right? So you've talked about, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and it can be incredibly lonely when you're carrying a lot, and especially if you've grown up as a caretaker. A lot of times you don't even recognize
Mhm.
the importance of asking for help, reaching out. It doesn't even occur to people a lot of times. So if we've grown up like that.
Can I admit, I mean, I'm still practicing that.
Certainly me too.
Yes.
We get better and better at it.
Yes.
Once we learn the lesson,
Fortunately.
right, we have the
Yes.
opportunity to
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
so
Yes.
not being
Fortunately. Yes.
alone, having supports that you can talk to, boundaries around how much work you're taking on, and taking your energy and your responsibilities into account so that you're not automatically saying yes. What other things do you see with burnout? Does anything else kind of come to mind?
I mean, most importantly, I feel like people are running away from their history. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I honestly just feel like there was a book years and years and years ago, Running as Fast as I Can. And I don't remember exactly what the book was about, but I think it was about alcoholism and codependency and stuff like that. And it comes to me sometimes when I find myself like there are clues that happen to me. Like I will start being a little more clumsy. Like I'll knock something over or things like that. So there are clues, I think, when we're
Mhm.
headed down the road that is too much,
Yeah.
and to notice those. As you know, like the thoughts between our ears are a little higher up usually, are really important. Sometimes when there's a lot of extra pressure, I notice that it's hard for people to recognize the thoughts they're even having. I mean, for me as well, sometimes. But one of the things that I work with people around is, having an affirmation in their pocket. Just one little thing, like having a stone in your pocket to remember, just to remind you when you put your hand in your pocket, like, "Oh, my life is great." Just those kind of tools, the little things that matter, how we get up in the morning really, for me, like, really matters. It's right? It's imperative. Like, how do we wake up? We're alive. Yay. Okay. Let's see what we can do with
So
this.
so it's I mean, to me, it's so interesting. We start off, with burnout with a constellation of symptoms that, the World Health Organization, when they said burnout is an occupational syndrome characterized by mental and physical exhaustion, a sense of kind of bitterness and cynicism that starts to percolate through your system and becoming less effective at work. So we have those sets of symptoms that are showing up. But then there's so many layers to it. There's that element of numbing out, using work as almost an addiction. There's family of origin issues that
Yes.
that come up in terms of not being able to say no, kind of the drivenness to prove something to somebody from back in the childhood.
Mm,
And in my experience, a lot of times coaching, therapy can be helpful. It can be incredibly helpful, but on a continuum, burnout goes from mild to moderate to more severe, where we're really starting to see someone's functional capabilities start to get impacted. Their ability to function at work and in their family and things like that. And that's such a dangerous point.
I have had encouraged a couple of people along the way. They've had to really just back out of work for a while
Yeah, yeah.
and just
So
find a
people
whole
get
new
to that
path.
breaking point and they break, or they just have had
Yeah.
it and can't go on anymore, and they have to make massive changes in their lives. Stop working, give up a business.
Yes. Yes. And it's not always easy, and there are consequences that
Yeah.
come with
Yep.
those kind of things, right? So I'm not a like, oh, let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, let's figure this out. I feel like coaching and therapy are both great. Like, they hand in hand sometimes. Sometimes one then the other, sometimes back to one, sometimes doing both. Sometimes, you know what I mean? And being with the right person for whoever you
Has to
are
be a good
makes
fit,
all the
right?
difference.
So there's lots of genes out there, and there's some that are going to fit me better than others, right? Doesn't mean it's a bad pair of jeans.
Exactly. No, those jeans just don't fit anymore.
And, ultimately being able to get to that point where you can look at yourself and, what are the changes I need to make inside of me? Because so many times with burnout, we're looking at the environmental problem, right? It's just overwork, too many demands, the environment that I'm in, we just have to work this hard to get this off the ground. It's so easy to externalize and not do that examination.
Don't you feel like in some ways now as well with all of the platforms that we have to be on, it's so different. Marketing is so different than it was 20 years ago. Being found, being seen, being heard. We used to be able to just go to a networking meeting, we meet a couple people, have coffee, and then get some clients, right? But it's not really
Yeah,
like that
so whether it's
anymore.
a client acquisition or for the entrepreneur who's out there trying to manage their life and their business with all that noise, right? Because um, again, another easy place to go numb out is go scroll, go watch some YouTube videos, go get some content to make you smarter. All these ways
Yeah.
to avoid the changes. One of the things that's been
Guilt.
so exciting for me is with the TMS practice that we have here, transcranial magnetic
Yes.
stimulation, that when people do get to that point of exhaustion where they really do have a hard time or can't, no, it's not that they won't, it's that they can't go back to make use of coaching and therapy. TMS provides this
Hmm.
very, very powerful brain reset, um, to get the
Mm.
capacities back up so that the energy's back, the curiosity's back, and the ability to really look at yourself, your life, and do things different kind of come back. Because otherwise the stressors make it so that you get tunnel vision. You can't see your way out of that. And the exhaustion just leads to this, sense of helplessness and hopelessness.
And then it's like you said, it's that repeating of your childhood
Yeah,
history, the patterns that are coming with you. And then not being able to break them and then or not even knowing what they are. I always call it like you might have vanilla ice cream. Okay, you're in this relationship, whether it's at work or home or whatever. And you have this vanilla, is the base. But this relationship over here has chocolate chips, and this one has caramel. They're exactly the same, but they feel very different to you, but they're
yeah,
not,
yeah.
and how we just bring all that stuff with us, and then it comes into work, and then it comes into this, and then the burnout can just like be the thing that breaks the spell, hopefully. But who wants to get to
Right.
that?
So there's a paradigm shift that's possible as you're
Yeah,
hitting whatever someone's version of the bottom is for them, that allows them to
right.
step back and look at things differently. Because otherwise you're just kind of doubling down on what's not working.
Exactly. Over and over. Same ice cream, different
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah. And there's so much suffering with that, right? The individual and then their
Yeah,
family, the workplace. It's hard to conceptualize and to watch that happen.
it certainly is. And it's hard to see ourselves, right? And that's why I think therapy and coaching is really helpful. So that I mean, we know something needs to be different. We don't necessarily know what or how. And then to be able to get the I don't know, the feedback, when your clients go, "Oh my god, I never thought of it like that," or your patients, or, I don't know, like, you ask the right question, and then they're like, "That's a good question," right?
No, and it's you may have asked the same question a week ago or 2 weeks ago, or you plant the seeds and they bloom later. But that sense that someone's
Yes.
working internally and really looking at themselves, examining why they are where they are, right? There's a great line, I forget who said this, but how are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want?
That's a great question. I'm gonna write that one down. That is a
We'll have
great
the
question.
proper attribution,
Okay.
but it's not mine. But yeah,
No, and that is the most important part of the discovery process, in my opinion. Like discovering, I mean, one of the things that I heard along the way from one of my coaches in the coaching school that I went to was what you think is coming at you is really coming from you. And I'd heard it one other time, but it didn't, I wasn't apparently aware enough at that time. But man, it hit hard that time. I was like, this is true. My God.
yeah,
Oops. How are we creating our
that's
life,
right.
right?
That's right.
And then not to make ourselves wrong or bad. That's the other
Compassion
part.
for yourself and
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of lifting of the shame and judgment, it's another set of skills.
Yep. There is.
Good. So Karen, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think we should touch on? Anything that comes to mind? No pressure.
The other thing that there's two little things that I always talk about. One is practice, not perfection, because those of us that are driven like that are really a little bit perfectionist lives within us, let's just say, right? The other thing is you can't be behind in your own life. It is not possible. It is your life, not someone else's. You can't be behind. You have lived it. You're not behind.
I love those, especially that you can't be behind in your own life. So many people are practicing busyness and
Yes.
they're measuring where they are based on their to-do list that they can never ever check everything off. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh, I wish I had. I wish I'd
Yeah.
done this. If I'd only done, stop it. Stop right there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And where can people find you?
Karen at Ruby Red Road, RUBYREDROAD.com. Um, you can just find me there, contact me there. I'm on Facebook, Karen Carey, so I'm out there a little bit, not too much, but it's pretty easy to find me. So
And where can people get your book?
on Amazon or just go to my website at rubyredroad.com and you can just scroll down a little bit and it's right there.
No, that's great. Well, I've so enjoyed spending a little time with you.
You too. Thank you so much. And I love the way that your life has progressed also. Like you've been through a lot, you know a lot. You're always finding new things, new ways, and even this new therapy that you're doing. What is it called again? I know what it is, but
So
what's it
it's
called?
TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Yeah,
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. I wanted to get it
yeah.
right though. And I know a couple people who are getting it. And are you having good success with that?
Now, what the studies show is that for people who have failed antidepressants, so its main indication is for treatment-resistant depression. About 36% of people who are prescribed antidepressants for depression don't respond to that. So more than a third. And in that population, we get about an 80% response rate, and well over a 70% remission rate.
That's impressive.
That's very, very impressive. It's just wonderful to see people kind of bloom and come back to themselves. And it's not indicated for burnout. It doesn't have an FDA indication. Insurance companies aren't going to pay for it. But we're finding it to be wildly helpful
Wow.
in getting people kind of back to having the energy, the enthusiasm, and the reset to really take advantage of the work that coaching or therapy can do.
That's amazing. I really love that. And I love that you're not complacent. We have to keep evolving, right? And I just
That's
wanted
right.
to say, appreciate you and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.